2. Eloquence of language. The Quran has not merely been revealed in Arabic, it has been revealed in eloquent Arabic. The language is clear and cogent, and there is no vagueness in it. Every word is unambiguous, and every style adopted is well known to its addressees. The Quran says, نَزَلَ بِهِ الرُّوحُ الْأَمِينُ عَلَى قَلْبِكَ لِتَكُونَ مِنَ الْمُنذِرِينَ بِلِسَانٍ عَرَبِيٍّ مُبِينٍ. The faithful Spirit has brought it down into your heart, O Prophet, that you may become a warner for people in eloquent Arabic. Surah number 26, verses 193 to 195. The Quran also says, قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا غَيْرَ ذِي عِوَجٍ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَّقُونَ. In the form of an Arabic Quran, free from any ambiguity, that they may save themselves from punishment. Surah number 39, verse 28. This is an obvious reality about the Quran. If this premise is accepted, then it must be conceded that no word used or style adopted by the Quran is rare or unknown. Its words and styles are well known and conventionally understood by its addressees. No aspect of the language has any peculiarity or rarity in it. Consequently, while interpreting the Quran, the conventionally understood and known meanings of the words should be taken into consideration. Apart from them, no interpretation is acceptable. Thus, in the verses, وَالنَّجْمُ وَالشَّجَرُ يَسْجُدَانِ, the meaning of the word an-najm can only be the stars. In وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ مِنْ رَسُولٍ وَلَا نَبِيٍّ إِلَّا إِذَا تَمَنَّى أَلْقَى الشَّيْطَانُ فِي أُمْنِيَّتِهِ. The word tamanna can only mean desire. In أَفَلَا يَنْظُرُونَ إِلَى الْإِبِلِ كَيْفَ خُلِقَتْ, the word ibil has only been used for camel. The only meaning of the word bayz in the verse كَأَنَّهُنَّ بَيْزٌ مَكْنُونَ is eggs. In the verse فَصَلِّ لِرَبِّكَ وَانْحَرْ, the word nahr only means sacrifice. They do not mean plants, recital, clouds, the hidden sheath of eggs, and folding hands on the chest, respectively. Similar is the case with declensions and styles adopted. Scholars of grammar and rhetoric have regarded many such aspects of the Quran as rare and as exceptions. However, the truth of the matter is that this conclusion is based on incomprehensive research. In recent times, the works of two pioneers of the Farahi school, Imam Hamiduddin Farahi and Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi, have fully proven that the declensions and styles adopted by the Quran are all in fact well known and conventionally understood by the Arabs. Students of the Quran who have flair for these aspects of the language of the Quran can obtain a lot of guidance from Imam Farahi's Mufradatul Quran, Asalibul Quran, Jamharatul Balagha, and Majmu'at Tafasir, and from Imam Islahi's Tadabbur Quran. Taking into consideration this principle is a requisite of the eloquence of the Quranic language, which, as stated above, is mentioned in the Quran itself. No explanation of the Quran is acceptable while disregarding this principle. 3. Uniqueness of style. The Quran has a unique style. It has the simplicity and continuity found in prose, yet it is not prose. It has the beat, rhythm, and poise of poetry, yet it is not poetry. It is not the book we are usually acquainted with, in which there are chapters and sections which deal with a specific topic or topics. The people of Arabia would sometimes call it as poetry and sometimes likened it to rhymed prose of the soothsayers, and it is this uncertainty of theirs which itself shows that they were not satisfied with what they said about it. In reality, the Quran is a unique book as per its style. It has the flow of tumultuous torrents and the vigor of pounding sea waves. Its sound reasoning has many variations that cannot be emulated. Topics are connected to one another with subtle harmony. It cites stories and anecdotes. The discourse returns to its central theme every now and then. Verses which portray threat, intimidation, and punishment are found in various styles. Other verses depict sorrow and longing. Emphatic expressions are another hallmark of its style. Similarly, we find verses which express intense emotions of disgust, indifference, and unconcern. Instances which reflect warmth and affection are as warm and affectionate as dewdrops, and instances which reflect wrath and rage are as fiery and resounding as thunder. The unique ways of address it contains simply enchant a reader to a state of trance. It is because of this unique and inimitable style that the Almighty says, لَوْ أَنزَلْنَا هَذَا الْقُرْآنَ عَلَى جَبَلٍ لَرَأَيْتَهُ خَاشِعًا مُتَصَدِّعًا مِنْ خَشْيَةِ اللَّهِ وَتِلْكَ الْأَمْثَالُ نَضْرِبُهَا لِلنَّاسِ لَعَلَّهُمْ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. Had we brought down this Quran upon a mountain, O Prophet, you would have seen it humble itself and break asunder for fear of God. And we mention these parables to these people that they may deliberate. Surah number 59, verse 21. But what exactly is the genre of the Quran? What at best can be said as an answer to this question is that it resembles an oration. No doubt, this is only a mere resemblance. It cannot be termed oratory in the strict sense of the word. However, it does come close to it, and on this basis the following things should remain in consideration before a student of the Quran. Firstly, in order to understand the Quran, its ambience should be studied. This means that the background, situation, and the requisites be determined in which a surah was revealed. Nothing is required for this beyond deliberation on the Quran itself, and the light of the Quran itself suffices for this. When a person deliberates on the Quran, concentrates on each and every word of it, tries to understand the rhythm and beat of the words and the construction of the sentences, the occasions on which a discourse is uttered become fully clear. Such is the extent of this clarity that they become an evidence on themselves, and no external argument is required for any corroboration. Imam Amin Ahsan Islahi writes, the only correct way is to comprehend the background from indications and clues found within the Quran. Once a person is able to ascertain the addressees of the discourse, such that which among them are addressed directly and which indirectly, what is the phase whose circumstances the addressees are facing, what are the questions which have been raised by this phase whose answer is awaited by both friend and foe, what is the nature of the hostility by the enemies, and what are the circumstances in which allies and friends find themselves in, what are the various groups which have joined forces with the enemies while adopting various measures and tactics, and what are the thoughts of the allies and associates, then the whole structure and sequence of the discourse becomes fully evident. All these aspects speak of themselves within the drift of the discourse. Thus, if they are ascertained through hard work, the whole sequence and arrangement of the Quran becomes fully evident, and the effect of reading a surah is the same as that of listening to an apt and timely oration of a great orator. Amin Ahsan Islahi, Mabadi Tadabbur Quran, page 210. Secondly, the direction of address of the Quran should be ascertained at each place. The direction of address shifts a number of times in the Quran at very short intervals, and sometimes even in a single verse. At one instant, Muslims would be the addressees, and at the next, the mushrikun would become the addressees. Similarly, the people of the book would be addressed in a verse, and all of a sudden, the address would shift to the Muslims. A similar shift is experienced in singular and plural entities. This change occurs both in the speaker and the spoken to. At one instant, the speaker would be God, and then suddenly Gabriel would assume the speaker's role. At another instant, the speaker would be Gabriel, and then suddenly the discourse would emanate from the mouth of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In short, just as an orator shifts from one addressee to another by shift in his tone, facial expressions, and the grandeur of the words used, in a similar manner, the address in the Quran also changes rapidly. Thus, it is essential that this aspect must be given full consideration while interpreting and explaining the Quran. It should be ascertained whether the speaker, for example, is God, Gabriel, the Prophet, or the people. Similarly, it should be determined whether the spoken to is God, the Prophet, or the people. Among the people, it must be ascertained if they are the Muslims, or hypocrites, or the people of the book, or the idolaters among the Ishmaelites, or if there are two or three among these, or all of them are spoken to. Then there may be instances of ambiguity in the address also. Sometimes a verse would apparently address the Prophet ﷺ. However, in reality the address would be directed to the Muslim Ummah. Similarly, an apparent address to him would actually be directed at the leadership of the Quraysh or to the people of the book. Examples of such address abound in the Quran. Thus, it is essential that this distinction be made with full caution and be fully ascertained who the actual addressee is. Without this, the real purport of the Quran cannot be grasped. Thirdly, general and specific verses must be differentiated. There are many places in the Quran where the words are general. However, the context testifies with full certainty that something specific is meant. The Quran uses the word an-nas or people, but it does not refer to all the people of the world, and many a time it does not even refer to all the people of Arabia. It refers to a specific group among them. It uses the expression ala-dini kullihi, which means on all the religions, and it does not refer to all the religions of the world. It refers to al-mushrikun or the polytheists, but they do not refer to all those who are guilty of polytheism. Similarly, the words min ahlil kitab and from among these people of the book do not refer to all the people of the book of the world. It mentions the word al-insan or man, but it does not refer to mankind. This then is a common style of the Quran, and if it is not taken into consideration while explaining and interpreting the Quran, a person can end up misunderstanding the whole purport of the Quran. Thus, it is of paramount importance that the interpretation of words of the Quran must always remain subservient to its context and usage. 4.